Mark here, glad to see you today, and we are talking M1. Is it still worth it with the rumors of the M2 set to launch in March, and who is it for? Believe it or not, the M1s came out in 2020, late 2020, and they have been with us for now over 1 year, and we are getting to the time where we are seeing M2 being launched. I have had the M1 MacBook Air for about a month now. I've used it for editing photos, I've used it for editing video, and I wanted to talk about it and see if it's still worth it in 2022, and should you just wait for the M2, or is M1 still a great buy? So primarily I am a photographer, so this is basically what I use a computer for, Photoshop. So this is going to be the first area we're going to touch. When it comes to photography, I am happy to say I have not been disappointed by this computer. Using camera raw to edit photos, especially even for live events, is not a problem. It's easy to get photos out quickly. For editing product photography, travel photography, it's quite great. When I put the images in Photoshop, however many they are, it does not freeze, it does not stop. For photographers out there, using the spot healing brush, especially for large areas, is an issue because it will lag your computer for almost 5 seconds or 3 seconds depending on how powerful it is. I'm glad to say you don't have a great lag. I would say maybe 2 seconds at most sometimes when the area is quite large, but other than that, using the M1 I've had no problems. It's quite seamless editing photos. When it comes to video, I have been using DaVinci Resolve. I wasn't able to use Premiere Pro 2022, so I haven't tested it out, but I believe the benchmarks are close. If you're using an old suite, probably like 2020, obviously that's where you're not going to have the full performance for your M1 because you're going to be using Rosetta. Well, for DaVinci Resolve, I don't think I've had very many issues. If you watched my last video about Chicken Tonight, the first 1 minute was quite intense, a lot of graphic heavy footage, but it really handled it well, especially when you really set your preferences for DaVinci Resolve, which I think we can talk about in another video if you're interested in using DaVinci Resolve. But when you set your preferences right, it really runs through the footage smoothly. You have no headaches of skipping footage. For normal footage like this, it's a breeze. It goes through it. And what I love about the M1 is that it doesn't have fans, but you don't really think you need the fans. It's quiet. It will just get a bit warm, obviously, when you're using, like, let's say 4K footage, but for footage that is 1080, you're gonna love this. Now, for those who love their numbers, we looked at Geekbench, and the M1 has a pretty high benchmark score in the 7,000s. When you look at computers around the same price point, like the HP X360, it has its single core Geekbench at around 5,000, 6,000, and that is a 2021 laptop. So considering that this laptop is from 2020 and it's still outperforming computers in its price range, I believe this is a very great buy. When it comes to display accuracy, I think it has a bit of warmer tones. I was trying to look at this with a friend of mine when we were editing photos, and you realize that your photos will have a bit of yellow feel to them, so that is something that may be an issue for you. The photos may become a little warm, so probably you have to compensate for that in your editing. Otherwise, the display is good for watching movies. I've watched a whole lot of movies on this thing, and it's very great. The sound is perfect. You will never go wrong with Apple sound. That is a fact. I basically use this sound for watching movies, for editing videos. I rarely use the home theater or the TV for sound because this thing performs outstanding. Ergonomics, it's easy to carry, fits in pretty much any backpack. It's a great one for travel, very light, it won't hurt your back, especially a photographer who's carrying around a 70-200, a 600mm lens. You need a laptop that won't add so much weight, and this laptop is quite light. You won't even notice it's there. So like I said earlier, the M2s are coming out, I think, next month. So the question is, should you wait for the M2 or should you just go and get the M1 MacBook Air? The great thing here is that I tested the best model of the M1's 8GB RAM, 256 SSD, so it's like the lowest in the M1 end, and it's quite powerful. I believe that the M1 is still powerful, especially when you look at all the other Intel based laptops around it. If you really want to bump up the power, then I would say wait for the M2. But if you don't want to go above the price point of 4 million, I think this is the best buy for your money. I do not think there's any Intel based laptop that outperforms it in that price point, and I would really recommend it for anybody who does light video editing, someone who does travel photography, who does product photography. This PC will not disappoint you. Obviously, as photographers, we always want to upgrade, but if you're planning to just enter into this field, Trust me, this PC will not, why am I calling it a PC? This Mac will not disappoint you. So I wanted to keep this one really short. I'm sure there's so many videos out there that you can watch if you want to understand the numbers, if you want to really go in depth into really understanding if the M1 is something for you. I just wanted to give you the basics because I believe many out there don't really care about the numbers. They just want to know, does the PC perform, does the Mac perform, and this thing performs. It will not let you down. Battery life is outstanding. It will give you about 5 hours of editing time. If you're watching movies, it will extend probably 6-8 hours. The display is fantastic, its performance is good, and the ergonomics are great. It won't hurt your back, like I said, and I think those are the things that really matter to people. Numbers are for people like us, but if you're just looking for a great laptop, the M1 MacBook Air 2020 still holds in 2022. That's been it. Hopefully you got something out of it. Tell me in the comments below, do you prefer to wait for the M2 or do you think the M1 is still a great buy for you? Well, that's been the video. See you in the next one, and always remember to deliver a feeling. Peace.